What's going on, guys? Matt Tolson here. Welcome back to another video. As you can tell by the title of the video, I'm going to be going over a few pros and cons of my Santacruz Hightower LTC. This is a 2019. I've had it for about a year now, so it's almost like a year review as well. Some of the things I've noticed to wear down, some things that bother me, as well as some of my favorite things about this bike. There's a few really cool features about it. But if you're new to the channel, make sure to hit that subscribe button, guys. Join the group, and without further ado, let's get into the video and start talking about the Hightower. Without further ado, let's hop right into the bike. I'm going to start off with my pros about this bike. A few of them are going to be the climbing capabilities, stabilization, as well as aesthetic. So starting off with climbing, this bike handles really good on the uphill. It's the new geometry of this frame. This is a 2019, so they changed up the frame from the previous model, as well as the long travel. So you get the virtual pivot point here in the back, which is like the same thing as my V10. It allows for extra travel. But the one thing I notice is when you lock out this bike, it is insane to climb on. I've ridden my dad's Tallboy, which is an older version of 2015, and it doesn't climb the same, and it feels like you're sitting back more. This bike, you sit up real high, and it makes it super easy to get over any obstacle, to be honest. But the next part is stabilization. Stabilization is super key when you're in the air, when you're going downhill, as well as when you're going uphill in a tight little spot. Recently I was just out in Sedona. Make sure to go check out the video. I'll leave a little card right there. It is really tight. The rocks are super tight, and as well as there's tons of fall exposure, so you don't want to be constantly moving your bars a lot. These race face bars are really nice. They're decently wide. That is one thing I may change about this bike in the future, is to get a little bit wider, just to have a wider stance. Because I do have quite a bit of rise here in the front to compensate for the fact that I'm 6'7", and that I'm not constantly hunched over the bike. Obviously I can lower the seat, but I like having the seat as high as possible for climbing, so it doesn't put as much stress on my knees and calves and more on my hamstrings and quads. Another thing about this bike is the aesthetic. Recently in the 2020 models they just came out with, they changed up the color. They went with a gloss blue as well as a tan. I got this Tiffany blue in a satin finish. I was really worried that it wasn't going to come out cool, and I'm really glad that I went with it, because one, it stands out from any other bike on the trail, and it looks freaking sick, to be honest. And so I'm super glad with that. A couple things about this bike. Recently they just changed the packages, so it used to be LTC, and then I'm pretty sure R, and then it went to XO, and then another couple ones, but now they're S and T, I believe. Don't quote me on this. If you want more information about the statistics as well as the components, I recommend going to Santacruz's website. They have huge detailed spreadsheets about each package per price, and honestly that's what I did when I first bought this. I didn't watch any videos, but this video is going to be mostly pros and cons after owning the bike for a year now. So now that we've gone over the pros, I say we should probably go over the cons. So let's do that. The biggest con about this bike is these two things right here: the seat as well as the dropper post. This is the Rockshox dropper post, and to be honest, it is one of the worst dropper posts I've ever used in my life. I don't know what it is about this, but I've had nothing but problems with it. Recently when I went up to Park City, when I got up there, the bike seat wouldn't go back up. Couldn't figure out why. I took it to a bike shop, ended up having an error in the line or something stupid like that. But that's just me. My buddy had to replace his twice before then he got a different one, and my dad also replaced his, and I've heard nothing but bad things about these, so I don't know why they still use them. But honestly, I still use it. It still works. It's getting really slow now, so I got to rebleed the lines. But honestly, we were pretty stumped when we got up to Park City and the seat was stuck down and I couldn't get it up. The bike shop thought it was an error in the line. I was convinced it was from the change in altitude and the seat being all the way down for 10 hours in the car. Let me know what you guys think in the comments, what you guys think could have been it, but I think it was that. So, but that brings me to my next con, and that is this seat. So of course my knees got tired, and I forgot to move the camera so it was facing more down, so then it caught my face, so I was standing up and it only caught my torso. So basically I cut that clip. But what I was talking about in that second part of that clip is the fact that the seat is super uncomfortable. It's a super narrow, super stiff seat. The narrowness is great, you know, for long trips and all that good stuff. But the stiffness of it is really, really good if you ride 3 days plus per week. Me, myself, have a hard time getting out 3 days a week. especially on just that bike. I like switching up the bikes when I can. But if you ride 3 days plus a week, it's great. Your butt gets used to the stiffness, the narrowness, and it's great. It works out probably pretty well for most people. But for your average rider where you're riding 1, 2 days, maybe even 3 days a week, then if you take a week break, then it's back to square one with the seat. The seat isn't just like, oh, now my butt's used to it again. No, it takes another 3 days of riding per week to get back used to it, which is kind of annoying. Obviously, I still run the seat. It works just fine. If riding 1 day a week and then, you take some time off, it's going to hurt. But it's not the worst pain, but it's not the best. So it's a little con. The seat works out just fine. Mine's kind of on the last legs a little bit. So I'll probably replace the seat now that it's a little beat up. So let's get back into the video and finish up what I was talking about. Here in the front, I will show you a closer look. I'm just going to talk about it from back here. The frame has gotten quite scratched up because I do drive a truck, and so I throw it in the tailgate. On the new model, they actually put a pad, just like on my V10. There's a little plastic pad here, so when it sits on there and it won't move. That's a little con. It's a bike. It's gonna get beat up regardless. I have scratches and dings everywhere, so it's not that big a deal. But it is a little frustrating that they, just started putting the pads when Dakine's been making these pads for years now, and most people throw them on there. They're removable if you do not drive a truck. So I saw that on the website where people were commenting that, what if you don't drive a truck? And it's like, it's so minute, it's small, and it's basically looks like a cover. So people just complain about the dumbest things, as I'm complaining about the dumbest things already. But a little kind of the setup I run on this bike. Obviously, I run clips. I run these Shimano XTRs. These are great clips. They're super durable, and honestly, I haven't any problems with them. And as you can see, my pedals and cranks are quite beat up, so it's probably going to be time for these because these are all bent. For tire-wise, I run the Maxxis Indians DHF for front, DHR 2s in the back. For the tire size, obviously they're the 29, but I like to run a little bit bigger of a tire. I run a 2.5 up front just to help me with turning, and then a 2.4 in the rear just then to help me get through narrow cracks and rocks. Obviously, some people like running the 3s. My buddy runs the 3s on his Hightower, and I think that's just too big, bulky of a tire. I think the 2.5 with the 2.4 in the back is a pretty good setup. I used to run 2.4 all around, and I do like having that bigger tire for turning, especially here in Arizona where it's real gravelly. So it kind of helps with turning and keeping you in a turn, so you don't feel like you're constantly about to slide out or roll out. So that's kind of how I run that. Like I said earlier, I'm still running the stock race face bars. Pretty much the bike is stock, and I don't plan on doing much to it besides replacing what needs to be replaced as it breaks. But I mean, when you're spending $6,000 on a mountain bike, you kind of expect that. That is going to bring me to my last con about this bike, is going to be the price tag. Comparable bikes are a little bit cheaper. Santacruz is notorious for being one of the more expensive brands, and for a reason though. You get the best of the best products. You get the carbon, you get the cool look, you get all the fancy bells and whistles, Fox, Maxxis, all that stuff. But to be honest, I think $6 to $10 grand for a mountain bike is pretty ridiculous, especially for how cheap parts are. I don't think bikes need to be that much of it expensive and be that much marked up. Specialized Yeti, Pivot, those are going to be pretty much in the same ballpark. You can get a Specialized mountain bike up to 10 grand, just like a Santacruz. So I'm not saying that other bike brands are cheaper, go cheaper, but you look at YT and those bikes are great. I have a couple buddies who ride them, and they're in the $2,000 to $3,000 price range. This starts at $3,000 and up. I'm pretty sure the frame alone is $3 grand, and so I think the LTC spec. I'll leave a little number right here. I forgot what I paid for it, and they just changed all the prices, so it's gonna be an estimate. Pretty sure I paid almost $5 grand for it. So it is a little pricey. You pay for what you get, though. I'm not bashing Santacruz. I do think bikes could be cheaper. I think the markup right now is a little aggressive, especially for what you're getting. The highest spec Santacruz right now is retailing for $10,000. With the carbon rims and all the best of the best. But 10 grand for a mountain bike is a little crazy. To be honest, in my opinion, I would never spend that much money people already call me crazy for spending, you know, 4 or 5 grand on a mountain bike, but 10 grand is too much. I mean, I just spent close to that on both my bikes, but for one bike is a little much in my opinion. Some people will justify it, and all the power to them. I'm not going to bash anybody for that, but I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I had a lot of fun. I love this bike, so don't think that this isn't a good bike. This is a great bike, and I won't get anything else but Santacruz. And honestly, I'm looking at a Mega Tower right now. This bike is great. It is a little bit big and bulky. The Mega Tower is kind of a great in-between bike. You know, it's good for jumping. This bike's great for jumping, but the Mega Tower is more of an enduro bike, and that's kind of more what I like. But I think if I'm going to get another bike, which I'm probably not for a while because I have the 2 great bikes, but if I'm going to get another bike, I think I'm going to do like a slope style bike, something I can kind of mess around with and do jumps on, instead of feeling like I have to do jumps on this bike. Just as, you know, something for the future, but definitely nothing recent. But without further ado, that's going to be the end of this video. I'm going to do another video about the V10. If you have any questions, guys, feel free to DM me on Instagram. My Instagram will be in the description as well as right here. I'm trying to get some more followers, as well as subscribe, guys. I kind of plateaued on subscribers, so I'd really appreciate it if you guys would hit that subscribe button, and as well as the like button. So without further ado, I'll see you guys in the next one.